Browns 0-8 at home. Just sad.
I haven't heard you this down since Sashi Brown got fired. It's a game that we were in, and it's a game that we just don't finish.
I don't want to watch anymore.
Why? Why does that happen? I'm so sick of watching those plays.
0-16.
I definitely do not want to watch it all 22.
That's up and down to me. That looks like dysfunction. Welcome back, Survivors. Episode 54, Season 3. This is Surviving the Season. Live from the Baywater Studios in Tampa, Florida. Live on twitch.com/STS Podcasts. If you want to check us out there. I'm Adam. Greg's here.
Yo! What's going on?
What up? We're having some drop frames, so we're not getting the best stream going that we could. Sorry about that.
Is it on my end?
Nope.
Okay. So we've been away for a week. And Senior Bowl happened. So a lot of interesting stuff there. We'll be getting Pete back on soon, sometime this week for sure. But the other big news was the article from Seth Wickersham.
Oh,
Did
that
you
was
get
awesome.
it?
Awesome.
Awesome.
The inner workings of the Browns. That was dope.
It was a trip down memory lane, a chance for Browns fans to reminisce on the failings of the Browns over the past, since Jimmy Haslam's taken over. Not as if the Browns haven't been a complete failure since 1999. So let's not give too much credit to the previous regimes, the previous owner, Al Lerner, and then as if when Jimmy took over, the shit just hit the fan. I mean, we had a long history here of, what's the word I'm looking for? Garbage. And so since Jimmy's been here, he's sort of just added to that. And it seems like, I don't know, after you read that article, the biggest takeaway is, and we've talked about it here numerous times, Jimmy Haslam meddling in decision-making and just complete lack of patience is a real problem. And we've talked about it. Is that going to cost you a chance to get good coaches? Is it going to cost you a chance to get good GMs? I think it has. I think it took Sashi to come in here, blow this thing up to smithereens, make it as terrible as it could possibly get, and then load it up with all the key assets that you need to build a championship team for an actual GM with a good resume to come in here and be able to pick up the pieces and keep it going exactly where we want it to go.
Yeah, it was a great, some of the stuff that we kind of thought too, that Haslam was a lot of the problem with the entire organization. Losing never helps, but if this team was winning, to see this kind of dysfunction would be hilarious.
Yeah. But the greatest part is where Dorsey and Haslam walk in to tell Hugh that he's fired, and he actually asks, "How come I'm being fired?" As if 3-36-1 isn't enough. That's wait a second. Where have you guys drawn this line in the sand that I crossed? How has it been too much? And Dorsey says the team quit on you. I don't know if he's referring to, this has been up for debate. People will say, well, the team was playing. They've been to 4 overtime games. Yeah, but what Dorsey could have been saying there is the team is not listening to you. They're going in, they're taking guidance from their offensive coordinator or their defensive coordinator, and it doesn't matter. They're tuning you out, Hugh. Like, your leadership ability has proven to be terrible, and the team's just no longer playing for you. And rightfully so. I guess Hugh can be upset about that all he wants, but the Browns and Jimmy Haslam in this case are rightfully in position to let this guy go, and they held on to him entirely too long. If you listen to this podcast, you heard that when they let go of Sashi Brown, we were just absolutely pissed that you're going to keep Hugh Jackson. That's what you're doing. I mean, it'd be one thing, like, even if you fired them both, but you're going to sit there and keep Hugh Jackson. What has Hugh Jackson done to show that he's a good coach? Absolutely nothing up to that point. And I thought, after you read that article, I think there's some things that came out that, Sashi didn't really get his choice of coach. One, he didn't really have the coach in there that was going to back his the way they're going to tear this thing down, which is crazy to me. Somehow Hugh doesn't know they're tearing this thing down. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I think they talked about it before too, that DePodesta said, like, it's going to be a roller coaster ride. It's not going to be easy. Everything's going to be fucked up all the time. And then somehow Haslam was on board with that, but then they hire Hugh, and Hugh acted like that wasn't the plan.
Yeah, in the story it said one exec told Haslam, "Don't go to any of the games for the next couple of years." It sounds like what we said 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Like if you can't handle losing, and you can't handle trying to find prospects, trying to find diamond in the rough type talent, you don't want to go to football games for the next 2 years, because it's going to be terrible. It's going to be a bad product. They're tearing it down to the studs. I mean, the article is basically everything that we've said up to this point of what's going on. A lot of it wasn't even, there was very little things in there that were actually new. A lot of it was stuff that has sort of been known, has been put out there. But just the way where Haslam is getting involved in things he has no business getting involved in. Yeah, I don't know if he wants to be Jerry Jones or what it is, but he needs to see himself out of any football discussions and let the big boys take care of that stuff.
I thought with Hugh sounded like he shouldn't even been hired to begin with. I believe they had a 5-man vote, and 4 people were in favor of Sean McDermott, who was the Carolina Panthers defensive coordinator, who they said, quoting the article, crushed his interview and was known to be open to new ideas. He also was never a head coach before, so I think he would have been a little bit more on board with the idea that, hey, we're going to tear it down, we're going to be patient. Where Hugh came off that 1-year disaster coaching job that he did, and then to get a second chance, he knows, like, this is it. If I don't win here. So Hugh should have never took the job to begin with. If they were honest with him about what was going to happen, Hugh should have just said, no, I don't want to do that, because I don't have another opportunity in this league. I've already had one chance, and that blew up. So
yeah, but Hugh's ego is just too much. Like Hugh's ego is so big, he thinks that he can come in here to this dumpster fire and he's just going to go out and win games. And I mean, it proved he's not a good coach. I mean, you look at the roster of the Bills with Sean McDermott has put out on the field. That roster is not as good as the Browns. It's just not. It's been that. I mean, that's an ugly roster, and he's won 15 games in 2 years. Explain that to me. That shouldn't happen. And meanwhile, we get Hugh in his first 2 years, and yes, right. I mean, look, we blew the thing up. We blew it up. We knew we weren't going to win games, but you're telling me you can only find a way to win one game in 2 years? Come on, Hugh. I mean, it's absurd.
Yeah. It's just crazy that Haslam was the only one that wanted Hugh. There's 4 other dudes in the room that are football, that are in the league. Haslam, why would he? It'd be like if I was sitting in that, and those guys are saying, of all these guys, these are the ones that we like, and you've been doing this for 2 years. So I'm going to go ahead and go with my gut on that one.
Yeah. No, I think Jimmy actually said, I'm the one driving the bus here. Have you heard there was some rumors? Now this came from Mike Silver, so he's got a agenda right now with the Browns, but he claims that not everybody on the analytics side was lock in step with the front office here on who to hire, ending up with Freddie Kitchens. Some seem to think that it was going to go the other way. Other coach I'm completely forgetting his name right now. But so you wonder out there how much of that is true. And, remember the source, Mike Silver. Yeah. Has he said anything nice about the Browns since Hugh got canned?
No.
I think not.
No, he hasn't.
So that is what it is. I mean, Hugh got upset. We learned in the story he got upset because the punter was traded for a 4th-round pick.
Yeah, went crazy, I guess. I think it was, quote, he went nuts.
Oh, man.
Stefanski, yeah, that's who you're talking about, Kevin. He was the guy from Minnesota.
Yeah, so if there's a chance that you have not read this article, it's Seth Wickersham from ESPN. He wrote the article. It's out there. If you need to go read it. If you're a Browns fan, you need to see what your owner is doing to your team. And I guess that gives you a little bit of hope going forward too, since Dorsey now seems to be the one that is actually driving the bus here. He's the one being put in charge, the one that everybody will be reporting to him going forward, and no longer. And he will be reporting to Haslam, but it seems like hopefully this will take Haslam's decision making out, and it will come down to John Dorsey. So there's no more blaming, I guess, in the building. It's going to come down to either it's all on John Dorsey's plate right now.
And Dorsey had a great line in the piece. Dorsey was skeptical of the analytics team. Said he didn't need these fucking nerds to tell him how to evaluate players.
All right. Well, we'll see how that goes forward. I mean, there was, I wouldn't say everything I read about Dorsey in there makes me feel great about him when he said he flexed his muscles and made it happen. Yeah. Okay. How about you just do whatever's right? All right. You don't have to do any muscle flexing. Just going forward, now that you're the guy, since you flexed your muscle, you're the alpha male in there now. Let's just do right by the team and don't have your own agenda going forward. I mean, I want more Freddie Kitchens.
Yeah, I think that was one of my thoughts when, as hiring Kitchens, is that he sort of consolidates a little bit of power with Kitchens being a first timer. Dorsey can kind of maybe push him around a little bit.
That's fine. Now, what's going to happen in 4 years when we have 4 Super Bowl titles? Is Freddie going to start pushing John Dorsey out the door? So.
Yeah.
I mean, we should have at least 3, I'm thinking. At least 3.
All right. That's not our main topic of the day.
No, we want to dive into free agency.
Yeah, let's do some free agency. What are your thoughts here? What are the Browns going after? What do they want? What do they need? How much money do we have?
Yeah, how much money do we have? It's a lot.
It's a lot, yeah.
It's a ton. And so right now they said they're going to be in contract talks with Greg Robinson, Perryman, Higgins. When's the first week of the year, of the actual NFL year? Is that March 1st?
Yeah, March 5th, 6th, something like that. Okay. Whatever that Tuesday is.
So you can try to sign your own guys anytime. So right now they could be working out those deals. If they don't get them signed by then, Perryman's unrestricted, Greg Robinson's unrestricted, but Higgins is a restricted free agent.
Correct.
Is that right? Correct. Okay. And those are the only 3 main ones from our own team that we're really concerned about. Do you think that they might try to sign any of these guys early? Joe Schobert, Agba. Like, there's no reason really to do that.
You mean extensions for dudes that aren't? They might, because it gives you the opportunity to get 1 year of their salary out of the way now.
Up front, when you have money.
Mm-hmm.
So there could be that opportunity too. Now they can do that. I mean, even once we get into the year, right? Or does that have to be done by the first of the year? Like, they're on their last. So Schobert and Agba will be on the last year of their deal.
Yeah. So what they would do if you're saying, like, let's say week 6, they come to an agreement.
Yep. Yeah.
They would just make that for that year. Like, it would start in that year, and they would just pay him. You know what I'm saying? It would renegotiate the terms of 2019's contract being the first year of a new contract. That allows the Browns to not only know how much money they have going forward, but after they sign free agents for this year.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead and now restructure. They wouldn't be restructures, but go ahead and now re-sign those players for their contracts to start in 19, then pushing them to 20. Gives you some flexibility. You kind of saw the Browns. I think they called them. What was the list of the Browns ideas that Sashi and DePodesta had? Guardrails.
Oh yeah, it was like a chart.
Yeah, the Browns guardrails.
That's what it was called?
Yeah. And one of them is you
Yes, you're
keep
right.
all the flexibility in the first 2 years of the contract. And under no circumstances do you sign somebody over 3 years of flexibility.
Yeah, when I looked at that chart, I was like, yeah, this is so much of this stuff is what we talked about. And I really feel like they did a great job of following this, and Sashi never got a chance. Like it says on here, like first and second round picks, like make those your investment, accumulate as many picks as possible, especially in the top 2 rounds. So the first year, they trade back. They're trying to build this thing for long term. They end up with 4 picks in the first 2 rounds in 17, and they end up with, I don't even know what it was, at least 5 in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah.
We picked 4, and then they had Chad Thomas also, but they traded back from the second round into the third round. And then they also would have had a third round pick, but they used that for Tyrod Taylor. So now you're talking about 5 picks in what,
the first 65 picks. Yeah.
Yeah. Like they followed this thing to a T. The analytics, competitive advantage, big data and odds. I mean, we talk about that. What do you use analytics for? Well, you match it with your scouting department because you want to make the best bets possible. You want to have all the information. So you're not making risky choices. You're going to bet safe. And it takes time for that stuff to build, I think they were almost even thrown to the wolves in the first year of Sashi and DePodesta when they weren't given a lot of time. They hadn't tested this thing. How much, have they had worked out? And then they go into this draft and you just wonder, like, okay, they're obviously the thought process was trade back, get more picks for down the line. But how much of like that data did they have worked out by that point? I mean, they're only 4 months into their reign at that point.
Yeah, I'm sure it's coming from DePodesta and Sashi as a collaboration. They'll just go back and look at what has happened in the NFL.
What I'm saying is weren't given a lot of time to go through and set that up. It wasn't like, they did all that in 4 months. I mean, if we think about what from 2 years ago compared to like when you're looking at prospects now, just 2 years later, how much more informed do you feel just from having a couple of years? And we're not GMs, but at the same time, we put like work into it. We actually look at it. We look at the data. We watch film. I feel like I'm so much more confident in being able to pick good players from average players now than ever before.
Yep.
So and you would have to think that with the GM, like all GMs are going to make mistakes and you expect to make those mistakes early on. Then you set yourself up for 5 picks in the first 2 rounds and you get hijacked by Hugh.
Yeah. Hugh blew it for you.
Yeah. So anyways, on to the free agency. So we have a boatload of money. I don't even know what it is, but it doesn't really matter.
Before we go there, Sashi, I believe he got quoted as saying, if you're not going to stick this out and let this go, don't give me the job because I don't need this.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, that's the truth, though. It's like, hey, they said it from the beginning. This is going to be a bumpy ride. It's a roller coaster. It's up and downs. You got to finish the ride out. You can't just jump off in the middle of the ride. That's just not the way it works. And man, it must be nice to be a billionaire. That's all. Just throw people under the bus left and right. They set up, they do everything that they say they're going to do, and then you just put all blame on them. It's unbelievable. All right. Anything else on that, by the way?
No, that's all.
Okay. So I want to basically we'll go through sort of our roster here and just look at what we're going to need. Because I like running back, I'm just skipped the free agents. There really wasn't anything to deal with free agent wise anyways. And they might take a flyer on a guy as a third running back in, 7th round or something like that. I think they have a couple 7th round picks. So, there's a chance they could draft a running back, but it's unlikely. And I can't imagine we're going to spend money. And when I look at the little chart Sashi had, it says, do not pay for depth. We'll see if John Dorsey uses Sashi's.
Right.
That could be DePodesta's though, right? That chart.
Yeah, but that makes sense. You don't want to pay money. You want to use your draft to fill out your depth.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll start off with the quarterback position. I mean, we talked about it last week, and I'm basically going to give you the same two names: Ryan Fitzpatrick, Fitzmagic. He's going to be one that might be somebody on the list since we bring in the OC from Tampa Bay. He's 36 years old. That is, the problem, but we're hoping he doesn't see the field anyways, to be honest. But he's a veteran, been around the league for many years, been a backup, doesn't complain, just comes in, does his job. And if you need him, like, he can throw you five touchdowns in one game. The problem is he'll probably throw 5 interceptions along with it. That could be a guy that we could add. Also, I brought up last week when we were talking about it, Tyrod Taylor would be a guy that I would absolutely try to pay the kind of contract maybe that they're giving Nick Foles. But now that you look at the Nick Foles contract, it's like $20 million going into this year. So it was pretty solid for this past year, but $20 million for the year too. They could do something like that. And I believe it was a player option or a team option. How did that one work out? Do you remember?
It's team option.
Team option. Okay. And Foles
also has an option to opt out. If the Eagles exercise, Foles also has a player option to say, nah, there's really no reason to turn down
$20 million. We'll see going forward. But that is something you could do with Tyrod, because now obviously Tyrod's going to want to go somewhere and start and get paid. The thing is, where is that option going to come available? So you might have to wait a little bit in free agency, let these guys go test the market, and before you decide what you're going to do. That's fine. I don't see any reason to throw a ton of money at this, but I would like to get a veteran in here along with Coach Stanton as your third quarterback.
Would you draft somebody? That's another guardrail. Quarterback, keep investing.
Yeah, I mean, you could. It just depends. If you draft somebody, you're not going to pay somebody in free agency. I feel like your investment right now is Mayfield. I mean, at this point, he's your guy. Really you have to make sure that you're doing everything to make sure that he succeeds. And I feel like bringing in another rookie, what's he going to get out of that? If you can get a veteran that can also give some input, who's been around the league, a guy who's just not going to sit there and be in the press talking badly about him. I mean, you can't have that sort of thing. A guy that's actually trying to get playing time over Baker. But I would like a guy in here that can offer input on top of what you're getting from Stanton. I mean, to make him a better, and plus if he goes down, I think also we have a good enough team here to win with a Tyrod Taylor. I mean, Tyrod played terrible at the beginning of the year when he only completed 49% of his passes, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions on the year. I mean, it was an ugly year for him, but that's not what you've seen from Tyrod, in Buffalo. So, if you're getting good play calling from Freddie, that he didn't get, he had to deal with whatever the hell his name was, Todd Haley. Thank you. Terrible play calling. And it made him look worse as a player. So you could, this could be a draft thing that you go into. I don't know. They're not going to spend a high draft pick. That's for sure.
No.
I mean, we have plenty of other things that we need to, but yeah, that's in play. I would still rather go with a veteran guy here.
All right.
We're going to skip the running backs. There's really, you look at the running back, there's a few names on here. Le'Veon Bell. Are you paying Le'Veon Bell for any reason? Kareem Hunt. I saw people on Twitter saying, I would trade Duke and bring in Kareem Hunt. How much is Kareem Hunt? What's Kareem Hunt going to demand a contract for anyways?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Get a 1-year deal.
He's probably playing cheap on a 1-year deal. Yeah.
1-year deal and try to prove himself. Yep. Like, I'm going to make it a whole year without beating up a woman. That's what he's going for. Tevin Coleman, another name on there, guy to catch passes. He's probably going to get a decent deal. Mark Ingram, Jay Ajayi. They're not going after any of these guys, in my opinion. We're going to skip fullbacks as well. Then we get to the wide receivers. Perryman, he's going to be on our list. If you had to only pick one of these wide receivers, let's say you got a choice of one wide receiver between Perryman and Higgins, what are you going with?
Higgins.
See, I go the other way. I'm going Perryman. If they cost the same amount, I would go Perryman, because Perryman gives you the and I know Higgins has been very good. I think Perryman adds something that this team just does not have outside of him. I guess you sort of get that with what's his name from Florida, the wide receiver. God, my brain is not working today. Callaway. I apologize. Callaway, thank you. So Perryman to me, is slightly more valuable here, just from the standpoint of what he can do. And if he can, look, sample size is small, but we know if he can keep this thing going, keep progressing, like he's got a different gear than any of these other guys do. And Higgins I see Higgins as sort of a Jarvis Landry type, to be honest. Like, he's just not a guy that gets you a lot of yards after the catch. He does a nice job of getting open. He does a nice job of catching the ball. But if you're going to talk about guys that are replaceable, both of these guys technically are replaceable. But that, if I only could choose one, I think it would be Perriman for me. But yeah, so those are our two targets. Other than that, you'd look again. I mean, we're going to get into the wide receiver rookies, the guys that are going to be coming in for the 2019 draft. Next time we talk to Pete Smith, I've got a chance to go and watch them. And I'm telling you, I'm loving this class, and not from a like a top, like there's going to be like these absolutely like stud Randy Moss type receiver, but it's just loaded with good, talented guys. There's not Julio Jones in this group, but there's tons of guys that are going to be able to catch the ball, make plays with the ball, with their feet after, and it really a lot of things to look forward to there. So I would 100% be taking a flyer on one of these guys, and it doesn't have to be the second round. It could be a third or fourth round. I think there's going to be talent there all the way into the fourth round from what I've seen so far. And I don't know how exactly the whole draft is going to, end up going down, but it looks like there's a large list of quality wide receivers in this draft class.
So
when you look at the guys who are actually free agents, I'll give you a few names. Jamison Crowder, he's a smaller guy from Washington. He's okay numbers. He's just he's like another slot guy. Not really what I'm looking for. That's not what I really want. I want a guy like a deep threat. I want somebody that can stretch the field. That's what I'm looking for. So if you're looking at like for that, Terrell Williams would be one from San Diego. He's 27 years old, decent stats. He's not going to blow you away. Free agent wide receivers, though, we know from history, cost a lot of money typically. Now, what Terrell Williams is going to go for, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up getting like an $8 million a year contract. Are you willing to pay Terrell Williams $8 million?
I think he's going to get at least 8. I think he's going to get more.
Right.
Yeah.
He absolutely. I mean, he very likely could. If you're going to take another name would be Dante Moncrief, another guy that can stretch the field a little bit. He was with Jacksonville this year, 25 years old. He's had some injury history, played for Indianapolis, had a couple good years decent years with Luck. Then Luck got hurt. He didn't do anything. He may have been the Jags' most consistent receiver this year, but this is not a guy that's going to light it up on a weekly basis, and that's just going to put you over the top. He's just sort of another guy, but that's an option out there. Devin Funchess,
no, he's slow. Yeah, that's another guy that I was going to bring up. A bigger wide receiver, but super slow. I think he ran a 4.7 for the combine. Kevin White from Chicago. That's one I wrote down, former first-round draft pick. These are the kind of dudes that you can reclaim, put them there with Baker, and then they work with Perriman. Yeah,
26 and a half years old, 25 career receptions in 3 seasons. I mean, injury is he sort of went through that Perriman type career. He's just been injured a lot. I mean, his first year, I think he missed the entire year, and then he ended up coming in the next year and he played like 2 games before getting injured for the year. But he was available a number of games this year, and the Bears didn't even put him on the field. So they weren't very high on him. But that's a name. I mean, if you want to, some type of
reclamation project.
Exactly what I was going for. Another name, Tampa Bay. So we talked about how Fitzpatrick could be a guy coming in from Tampa Bay. Maybe they could also look at Adam Humphries. Again, another slot guy. I mean, it's Jarvis has got the slot. I mean, you could probably pay him a quarter of what you're paying Jarvis. But DVOA, he was the number 28th receiver and 41st in PFF. Landry was 56th. So, I mean, he was higher than Landry. Like I said, you could save some money. I don't think John Dorsey would do that by any means. And he's only 25 years old. He's every single year in the 4 years he's been in the league, he's improved. every year he's stepped up his game a little bit. So I would say it's unlikely, but a possibility. And then also Cole Beasley from Dallas, who everybody knows. Name recognition is probably going to get him more money than the rest of these guys. Does he deserve it? He's a solid player. How much better is he than an Adam Humphries? Well, that's arguable. So any of those names. So those are the names. I mean, there's some other guys on this list. Chris Conley, who is a Kansas City guy that John Dorsey drafted. So maybe he'll look that way. He just really, again, not consistent, hasn't put it together on a weekly basis ever. So
yeah, that's another one I had down, in Dontrell Inman. I had written in. He's 30, so I don't know if they're going to, if you can get away with like a cheap deal with Conley.
Who was that?
Dontrell Inman.
Oh yeah, okay, Inman. I don't even know who he played. Was he with the Bears still this year? I don't even know. Right? So I mean, yeah, I can't remember who he is with. Yeah, 30 years old. They had an opportunity to go get him a couple years ago, and they didn't. They passed on him, but I believe that was the Sashi era. Is Dontrell Inman putting you over the top?
No, I don't think any of these guys are. But
exactly, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm looking at the draft here. I'm looking because we're thinking that we're going to have Landry for one more year, right? So I'm sort of looking for a guy, maybe not to come in and put in 80 catches this year, but to come in, get better, and give us 80 catches next year.
Yeah, I think Tyrell Williams would be the biggest play if they actually wanted to spend money on this position, but I don't see it happening. I think Perriman gets a deal. I think Higgins signs his tender, Callaway, Landry, and maybe a draftee. Yeah,
Golden Tate, Randall Cobb. Other options. And some of these guys could be getting re-signed to their own team. I mean, Terrell Williams might stay in San Diego / LA for all we know.
Yeah. I think he's going to get out because he's probably going to get paid, and I'm not sure if the Chargers want to spend it this year.
Yeah, they drafted Mike Williams too, sort of to replace him. So
yeah.
The tight end list, there's nobody that blows me away on this list. Like Tyler Eifert will be on the list again. I mean, if you could ever stay healthy, I feel bad for the guy who's hurt every year. Jared Cook had a nice year on the list. I don't think they're looking at these guys. Jesse James from the Steelers. This is a good draft year for tight ends again, so it's almost like the golden age of wide receivers and tight ends in college. There has been one year after the next of good crops coming out of very good players in those positions. So, a lot of it probably has to do with the style of football that college is going to. They're just spreading it out, throwing more often. And then this is what we get. There's just so many more guys that can do, play adequate football and above average football. They don't have to be these great guys. We talked about it with Mayfield. Like, you don't have to have a number one. It helps if you have a guy that you can rely on nonstop, but you just need guys that are going to be consistent. And that's what you're really looking for right now.
From our list, you can get away with moving on from Fells with just a small amount of dead money. You're bringing him back at 2.6.
Yeah, I would. Absolutely.
Okay. And Orson Charles is restricted free agent, apparently.
I mean,
you're going to tender him?
No, I don't. I mean, they might. If you, what's the like? He's an undrafted guy, so if you go at the lowest, it's just like an undrafted contract, right?
Yeah.
So
he was drafted. He's a fourth round draft.
Orson Charles?
Yeah.
Oh crap! I didn't even know that.
2012,
I thought he was a drafted
fourth
guy.
Round pick.
It's not good.
That's the 2012 draft. He's just now a restricted free agent. He's only accrued 3 seasons somehow, so he's barely saw the field. That's weird to be 28 and still be restricted, but he's managed to get paid a few times, so that's good. I'm not too worried about him. DeValve, I don't know what's going to happen there. You can bring him back on his rookie deal.
He's on his rookie deal. He probably doesn't cost $800,000 or something.
He'll be unrestricted in 2020. I would look at the draft here too, just because there's some playmakers. It really doesn't matter anymore if you're a tight end or a wide receiver, whatever's put on that beside your name. I don't know if it matters the way that the Browns are going to come at you with a bunch of different looks anyway. Njoku can line up outside as a wide receiver. I mean, he doesn't have to play in line. So if you can find a tight end from college, I know There was one dude that's pretty high up the list. That's a pretty good athlete. Of course, I don't have his name in front of me, but if you're just looking for offensive weapons, wide receiver, tight end, doesn't matter. Like, just get weapons there, and Mayfield will find the open guys.
Yep, I agree with you. And like, it'll be deep. You can get one later in the draft here as well. So let's move on to, I skipped center and guard. So there's no chance in hell we're going anywhere, right? I mean, maybe they could, I guess there's a possibility they could draft a guard or late. I mean, we do right now. We have, who's that kid they picked up from New Orleans? Some guy. I don't even, he might be off the team after this year.
I don't know who you're talking about.
Who's the guard that was playing? See, I don't have my list up here.
Watford?
Yeah.
From Chicago?
Yeah. What's he? Is he on the books for this year?
No, he's unrestricted.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. There's a chance they could find a replacement for him if they think the other kid's going to move inside to like just play center only. It's unlikely, but that's there. I doubt it's going to happen. We're probably not going to touch any centers or guards, so we'll just move to tackle. Now, this guy's probably going to get re-signed. He's a free agent with New England. He's playing in the Super Bowl. Trenton Brown, 26 years old. He's done a fantastic job. They move on from, the big kid that went to New York.
Yeah, so
got paid big bucks. They pay Trenton Brown almost nothing. Comes in, fills in like like a pro, like he was meant to be there. So we'll see if he ends up getting paid or not. There's a chance that he could, it's New England. New England's probably not going to pay him. So there's a chance he goes on free agent market. And that's probably the best name on there. There are some decent names, though, when you look at this offensive tackle list. Donovan Smith with Tampa Bay. He was a second-round pick. He's played every single snap or just about every single snap with Tampa Bay over the last 4 years. He's anywhere from like an average to above average pass blocker, and he's slightly below to average run blocker if you go off the PFF data. So he's an option there. If this could be if one Greg Robinson gets away, they can't sign him. You got somebody like Trenton Brown, Donovan Smith, Jawan James, Miami kid. He was a first-round pick, 5-year starter. He's dealt with some injury. He's got an injury history, above average grading everywhere. I mean, these guys, if you want to look at, we said Greg Robinson played well, but if you're looking at PFF grading, like all these guys graded better than what Greg Robinson did this year. And the one fault, the biggest fault that Greg Robinson has is when you look at his penalty. He had 10 penalties this year and only 492 snaps. And if you go over to that's where he's at. He gets more. He has more penalties against him than almost any tackle I've ever seen in the history of football. I mean, it's unbelievable how many penalties this guy gets called for. And I was comparing it to the other guys, and nobody else is even close. So these are names. Jawan James is 26. Donovan Smith, 25 years old. Trenton Brown, 26. Darrell Williams was with Carolina this year. He got injured. He was a 4th-round pick, 26 years old. He missed. He might have even missed the whole season. But when he plays, he's a 78 pass, so a well above average pass blocker and above average run blocker. Another name, Bobby Massey with Chicago, 29 years old. Played most of the snaps, 6 out of 7 years. Again,
Bobby Massey just re-signed.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the thing. Like, I don't know. These guys, it's probably –
he was one I wrote down too.
Okay. There's a good likelihood that a lot of these guys are going to get re-signed with their teams, but these are the names out there other than Greg Robinson. So it's not Greg Robinson or bust. There's other names that are going to be there that these guys either.
I wrote down it was a backup left tackle in Dallas, Cameron Fleming.
Yeah.
He only played 20% of their snaps this year. But I watched those games, and I thought he did a pretty good job as a backup. That's probably a dude that the Cowboys try to keep cheap. So they have he's 27. They can keep him as a backup, hopefully at the right number. But if he's 6'5", 323, I think he's listed out of Stanford.
Mm-hmm. He was below. If you go from a grading aspect, I just look at that. We don't have a chance to go back and watch all these guys play, so I use like that reference point age and then sort of look how much have they been playing and how are they grading. He was slightly below average on that stuff. But yeah, I mean, right now that's what we're going to be doing. Even if we re-sign Greg Robinson, we have to find somebody to come into the mix. The question is with that, that spot. What is going on with Desmond Harrison? Like, he doesn't go from starter to just inactive, like, for no reason.
Yeah.
Like, I know he was bad, but he just went straight to the inactive list, and he doesn't seem to even be part of the plans. So that would be another question. Like, what are they going to do with him? What is he under contract with us?
Yeah.
He is. For how long do we have him? 4 years in because he came in as undrafted?
3, then he'd be restricted.
Okay.
But he's 24. Greg Robinson's 25. That's what's crazy.
But that's the thing here. Like, these tackles, every single guy I mentioned to you is either 26, 25 years old, except for Bobby Massey, who you just said got re-signed, and he's 29. So these are younger guys. The other one was Kendall Lamb that I had written down, and he's 26 years old. 1 year starter was it. Unrestricted free agent, played for the Texans this year. I'm sorry, he was a UDFA. And now he's obviously an unrestricted free agent. 75.9 pass this year and a 49.7 in the run. So above average pass blocking, below average run. And that was on 929 snaps. And then he got 4 penalties. So that's, I wrote down the penalties, like, in double the penalties or double the snaps than Greg Robinson. He gets 4 penalties. Greg Robinson, if you just went off that average, would end up with 20 penalties for the goddamn Browns in the year. So I know we're all happy. This is what I keep saying. Like, yeah, Greg Robinson, great. He did fine because Baker didn't get sacked for 8 games. But when you look at it, is Greg Robinson that good? No, he's an average offensive tackle. That's all he is. All the numbers support that.
Yeah, I think there's some dudes that are in the draft this year that I've got to watch a few of them, and I wasn't like super blown away by anybody, but I think there's going to be quite a few tackles that are going to be taken in the first round.
Do you remember who you've watched so far? Like the Jonah Williams kid?
Yeah, I watched him.
Greg Little. He's a big boy.
Yeah,
but
they're all pretty highly.
Can afford to take another Greg Little.
They're all highly ranked, though. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. We'll see there. So yeah, I think it's more. I mean, one of these guys, somebody's going to get signed by the Browns. They have to bring in a veteran tackle, but I would not going to be shocked when we end up drafting one, even if they end up taking one with that first round pick. I won't be shocked. It all depends on what's there, for me to actually have like a good opinion on it.
How it falls, right?
Yeah, but it could happen. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball then. And this is like the best group. And again, a lot of these guys could get re-signed with their teams. But if you're looking at edge rusher, if you need an edge rusher, this is the year for you. So let me name some of these names. DeMarcus Lawrence. Now, he was franchised this year with Dallas. I don't know if they're going to end up doing that or what they're going to do with him again. DeMarcus Lawrence, Jadeveon Clowney, Frank Clark, Dee Ford, Ezekiel Anza, Brandon Graham, Shane Ray, Dante Fowler, Shaq Barrett. I mean, look, the name, you look at these names and you're like, Jesus, man, like there's a gold mine out there. At least half of them, probably more than that, are probably going to get re-signed back to their team for the most part. But somebody's going to be available. That's for sure. DeMarcus Lawrence, probably not. Like the Cowboys really need him. Sounds like Jadeveon Clowney is going to have a good chance to hit the free agency market. He's 26 years old. He's going to cost a boatload of money. Well, he's almost 26 years old. And what he does best is plays the run best. And he's really not that great of a pass rusher, not where they thought he was going to be. When he came out in the draft, people thought this is the second coming, like the greatest, thing since Jesus rushing the passer. Jesus was a good pass rusher, by the way. He had 9 sacks in 2018, 28 sacks in the 5 years that he's been with the Texans. But he's going to cost you probably like close to $20 million, I would think, per year.
Yeah. They're not going to be cheap.
And I mean, can the Browns, we can afford to pay something like that. Now, had we gone after Khalil Mack, I would have been all about it. But now we're talking about paying Jadeveon Clowney $20 million. I'm not on board with that, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't know where you would be.
Jack D in the chat here thinks that Clowney will get tagged.
Okay, could be.
I wouldn't mind. He also mentioned Trey Flowers from the Patriots. That'd be a fun one.
Oh wait, Trey Flowers, is he a free agent?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. I don't know why I didn't have him on my list here. Good point though. I don't.
Patriots generally let their free agents test the market. They'll match because they have the you're winning. So I think the Browns might be able to bring in some players that they wouldn't normally be able to get just because of the excitement around the team. And now you have a quarterback and it looks like, hey, we're going to win some games.
Yeah. So let me talk about some of these guys here. So right. Frank Clark, 25 and a half years old, 14 sacks this year. Now, he had a domestic dispute before the draft, maybe even the year before the draft when he came out. 26 tackles, 13 missed tackles. So that's, if you want to talk about where Frank Clark struggles, it is tackling. And that's been one of the biggest things with the Browns. Like the Browns, we've been bad tacklers. We have to have guys that can tackle. So if you bring in Frank Clark, you're now getting even worse at tackling. Not to mention, like I said, with his domestic abuse stuff, pass rush, he's pretty decent. 75 grade from PFF in the pass rush, 14 sacks this year. D Ford, he'll be 28 years old when the season starts. He played with Kansas City. We know he just lined up all sides in what was the biggest play of the year for Kansas City and forces them out of the playoffs. But when you look at his season, he had a fantastic season, 16 sacks, 84 pressures. I mean, that's a ton of pressures, man. If you hit 80 pressures, like, you're elite. The problem is this is by far the best season that D Ford put together, and it's coming on a contract year. Isn't it funny how often when the guys are getting ready to get paid, they have the best seasons of their career?
That's pretty good motivation, isn't it?
It's crazy. So he his previous high rating from Pro Football Focus on pass rush was a 65.9, and he went all the way up to a 91.1 this year in pass rush. Now, it also helps that Kansas City was ahead in all these games, and he gets to pin his ears back and go rush the passer, because D Ford is an undersized edge rusher. He's really a guy his body is an outside linebacker like body, playing a defensive end. So John Dorsey drafted him. He may like to go in that direction. I'm not a big D Ford fan. I mean, yes, he had a fantastic season. He just hasn't been consistent at it. Maybe he can put it together going forward. But he's probably going to cost a good chunk of change as well. And he'll be 28 years old. So, a 4-year deal will take him up to 32 years old. And you're talking about a speed rusher. This is not remember, you keep your power with age, but you have a tough time keeping your speed.
It's going to be an interesting spot there because there's so many names. I'd love to. What's the dude from the Ravens?
You talking about edge rusher?
Yeah. I'd love to pluck linebacker.
I have him on my list. I kept him out of my list I know who you're talking about. And
why can't I think of his name?
He's terrible against the run. Now we're grinding to a stop here.
No, not Suggs. The other guy.
Yeah, not Suggs. I was going to say not Suggs.
What's the other one? It doesn't matter. My point was, it's always fun to try to take dudes from your division. Nab some of those guys.
Zadarius Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah, 26 years old, good pass rusher, but he struggles against a run. And I didn't put him on the list for a reason. I didn't write down why though. So
Mosley too.
Yeah, CJ. We'll get to that. I have him on the linebacker list. Well, we'll get there. So
I'm
a couple other names. Ezekiel Anza. He got he had a 1-year deal this year. He only played 7 games. Now he's a good pass rusher. He'll be 30 years old next season. So, what's he going to cost? He's probably going to cost a good amount of money because he still gets the quarterback. He only had 4 sacks this year, but 52 sacks in his 6 years in the league. So that's a good one. Now here's a name, Brandon Graham from Philadelphia. I don't know what they're going to do if they have a lot of guys to re-sign. When you look at this free agency list, there's a ton of Eagles on it, and I don't think they're going to be able to pay all these guys. What about the Browns doing sort of like what the Eagles did with Chris Long, where you bring in a veteran guy who's probably past his prime, you give him a 1 or 2 year deal, you pay him decent money, but you don't blow up the market. You pay him as like a, sort of a role player, and you just let Brandon Graham rush the passer. I mean, when you talk about pressure rate, there's nobody better than Brandon Graham. He had 77 pressures this year, and that was one of the lowest seasons he's had in some time. I mean, he only had 7 sacks. The one thing that you can knock Brandon Graham for is the lack of sacks compared to his pressure. So he's always putting pressure on a quarterback. He just isn't always finishing. The problem with him, he's going to be 31 years old. But he's a solid run defender, very good pass rusher. So there's a name that could hit the free agency market. We don't know how much Philadelphia is going to have to spend. when that comes open. So that's another one. Another older guy that I was looking at, Derek Morgan, who was put in a role this year to really play outside linebacker rather than rush the passer. He's 30 years old. He missed 4 games. He only had 1 sack this year. But if you go back to 17 with a different role that he was given this year, he only had 1 sack in that role. If you go back to 2017, he had 10 sacks, 2016, 11 sacks, and he's a high pressure rate guy every single year. So the value of him, the market could be down on Derek Morgan, where you can bring in a guy like Derek Morgan for relatively cheap, put him over there with Agba, and you have another guy in there that can get after the quarterback.
Yeah, we have, there's a term in horse racing for that. It's like hiding form, where a horse is racing out of its division or out of its proper class, and then they drop it back into what you're saying, drop it back into the other position that you were successful at, and then you blow up, and you got better odds because it's hidden.
Yep.
So you don't have to pay so much for the services. There's a lot of dudes in the draft here at these positions as well. So how much do you want to spend there? I guess you got to decide what you're going to do with Agba. I'm sure the team knows. If Agba doesn't catch an extension this year, I think Agba gets let go after the season. Chris Smith, you can move on from anytime.
It'll be interesting. I think Agba sort of, they didn't do him any favors by pushing him inside to really be able to showcase what he can do. I mean, he struggled rushing the passer. He hasn't been healthy. That's been a problem. He can't really use his burst from the inside the way he can do it from the outside. I mean,
right.
I don't know. I just feel like not having a consistent 3 tech that can get pressure on this team, hamstrung what Agba did. It was a downfall for him, but they can still add a edge rusher here. I mean, you can if Agba's not getting it done on a weekly basis, like he just hasn't been, unfortunately. You can bring in a guy that can do that can help add to a little bit of pass rush. I mean, they tried with Zettel, but really, there's only so much. Is his contract up?
Who?
Anthony Zettel.
He's got 1 more year.
Okay, so we'll see what they end up doing with him. I mean, I don't really want to rely on Anthony Zettel for my backup either. There, a couple other names. Just Dante Fowler is going to be he's with the he'll be in the Super Bowl. I don't really want. He's probably going to get decent money. He's only 24 years old. Shane Ray just didn't make it in Denver. They're going to let him go. He only played 253 snaps. He missed some games. He only had 1 sack on the year. Shaq Barrett really is the guy there. If you're going to go after one of those Denver pass rusher, it's Shaquille Barrett, 26 years old, but he sort of fits that 3-4 mold more than what we do. Preston Smith would be another one on that list from Washington. He's probably going to get re-signed by them, 26 years old and 6 sacks, 53 pressures this year. But I wouldn't expect him to make the free agency list. So there's some names there that I think they could go after. Will they? Like you said, again, the draft, some solid players there in the draft. There's some guys I really like. Charles Omenihu is one of those that really had a decent Senior Bowl week. So we'll see. Good, we'll just see how that one goes forward. But let's move on to the defensive tackles here.
Yeah, this is an interesting list.
Yeah. So
also a stacked draft class.
What's that? Excellent draft class.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent draft class. But I, like Pete brought up last week, I wouldn't mind drafting one and still picking up one of these guys in free agency. The biggest names on the list is Grady Jarrett, Atlanta. They had talked to him about a contract extension. It didn't happen yet. I mean, we're coming down here to not too much time left. If they don't get that done, Grady Jarrett's going to go for a good amount of money. Now, he's probably stuck at playing year 1. And if that's the case, I'm okay with Ogunjobi sliding over him and playing the 3 technique and getting, because he's just so good at getting through the line quickly. I think he can do it. Grady Jarrett is very good run defender. He was a 90 rating from PFF on the run defense, 86.7 in the pass rush this year. So he was even getting it done in that aspect. 18 sacks in his 4 years, 53 pressures this year. So he doesn't just give you a run stuffer. Grady Jarrett, can rush the passer as well. So, he's going to go for a lot of money. If you're going to pay somebody, that would be a name to look at. The second one would be Sue from LA, with the Rams. He'll be playing in the Super Bowl. He's 32 years old. What do you want to do there? How much? He's probably got a couple good years in him left. And when you look at a grading aspect, he's always there. He's always getting it done. Very good against the run every single year. He's not as good as a pass rusher, but he did have 7 sacks this year. 64 sacks in the 9 years in the league. So he's good for about 7 sacks a year. If you go for Sue for 1 or 2 years, are we going to be complaining about that? I don't think so. Just a matter of what you're going to have to pay him.
Right.
Sheldon Richardson with Minnesota. Now he's had motivation issues. He's been in trouble with the law. He seems to have gotten it together since he went to Seattle and this year with Minnesota. He's 28 years old. He had 5 sacks this year, 28 sacks in the 5 years in the league, above average against the run, above average pass rusher. That could be a guy. He's not on the same level as a Sue or Jarrett or Gerald McCoy. Gerald McCoy would be another one that I would talk about. He's not a free agent, but talks have been with Tampa Bay is that he may get cut. So, Sheldon Richardson isn't on that level, but if you're going to hit up the draft, a 3 technique, plus you get Sheldon Richardson, we're looking pretty good at that position. And Ogunjobi probably doesn't have to play 1,000 snaps this year, which would be nice for him. A couple guys that maybe don't necessarily fit our style, but are out there. Henry Anderson with the New York Jets this year. He really plays like a 5 tech. Could you put him inside more, full time? Probably. He's probably playing out of position at that point. He's only 27 years old, 8 sacks this year. And then David Irvin, who with Dallas, sort of the same role, has been injured a lot. And I would think the Cowboys said they're going to try to keep him, but I don't know what's going to happen there. He's only 25 years old, but he can get pressure on the quarterback, and he's just a tough SOB.
As far as our own team goes, Coley, exclusive rights.
What is Coley?
Free agent. They'll probably tender him for the 1 year. He's only 23, might as well. Carl Davis is unrestricted.
He can't even see the field,
Yeah, he's gone.
Coley's okay. Really, when you look at Coley's stats, they're not terrible. He's not the worst, but you can just do so much better. And we're at this point where we're in win now mode. We got to get somebody in there that's just more consistent. All right, so let's go to those linebackers, and we're going to bring up C.J. Mosley here because the Ravens just came out and said, yeah, we want to keep C.J. Mosley, but the money's going to matter. So I went and looked up linebackers. What do you think middle linebackers are getting paid? You probably already looked this up if I know you, but a good middle linebacker, like top tier middle linebacker, what do you think you make per year?
6.5.
Okay, the best middle linebacker. That's what CJ Mosley's going to say. I'm the top dog, right? Right? What do you think he's going to go ask for? I'd say 6.5 is probably a good for a mid-tier linebacker. Jamie Collins is getting 12.
Jamie Collins is getting 10.
Okay.
That's okay, 10.
Yeah, but CJ Mosley's going to set the market, right? That's probably, so I was thinking he's probably going to go for like 15 to 16, $17 million is what I bet he's asking for. If you compare that to Luke Kuechly, who is the best in the game, he's got a 5-year, $62 million contract he signed in 2015. So that's an older contract at this point. He's not going to compare it to that. Bobby Wagner is the next one on that list, $13.6 million. You know, CJ Mosley is going to want Bobby Wagner money at least, right? He's going to want Kuechly money.
Yeah, I was looking at the list of the current free agents and what they made. So that's why I'm so short.
Oh, yeah. So, but I bet you that's what he's asking. Like, if you're his agent, what's your first thing you're going? The agent's probably saying 20 million, but
yeah,
like they're shooting for 15 million.
Well, the Ravens have a lot of people to pay too.
Yes, they're getting old, but he's a young foundational piece. Do you really want to? He's only 26. Do you really want to lose him if you're the Ravens? I think they're going to do everything they can to really keep him there.
Yeah.
When you look at his grading, like, he's a really good tackler. So God, we could use that for sure. As a run defender, he's above average. He's just okay in coverage. Like, he's just an average coverage linebacker. And really, it comes down to, what are you looking for? What do you want? He's definitely a major leader over on that team. So It's going to come down to a money thing. But yeah, I mean, if the Ravens don't sign him, yeah, the Browns absolutely 100% will probably be looking at him. Other than CJ Mosley, though, because I don't know if that's going to happen. Some of the names are Denzel Perryman, Quan Alexander. I don't really want either one of those. Jordan Hicks is a guy that I do like. I like him because he's a really good coverage linebacker. The downfall of Jordan Hicks, he's 26 years old, is that he gets injured a lot. He has injury concerns. That would be a guy to target, but you just have to be worried. Is he going to be able to stay healthy? And he hasn't. And one other guy on that list would be the Deion Buchanan. Everybody brings up Deion Buchanan. Why? I don't know. He's not even good. Like I was watching, Steve Wilkes' defense. I want to go and see what he does. So, all right, well, while I'm over here watching Steve Wilkes' defense and see how he plays his defense, I'll watch Buchanan at the same time because this is a name on the free agent list. He's terrible. He's an undersized linebacker. He was a safety in college, probably not even 220 pounds. He gets run over constantly in the run game, and he can't keep up with any of the guys he's covering. So what's the point? If people would just leave Deion Buchanan off their list already of free agent wants, that would be, that would appease me.
Fair enough. Can't
take it. Like, he's not good. We don't want him here. So watch it. He'll definitely be on the Browns come 2019. So those are the interior guys. There's really not a lot on that list worth going after when you're looking at inside linebackers. Craig Robertson's on that list. He was an ex-Brown.
What about Thomas Davis?
Thomas Davis is a outside linebacker. He's like a weak side linebacker. So these are just the inside linebackers I was like middle linebackers is what I was going there. But Thomas Davis is on my next list, but he's older. Like he's up there in age.
36, 37.
36 years old. Yeah. I mean, what are you giving him, a 1-year deal if you're doing something like that?
I don't know. I'm sure the Panthers aren't bringing him back.
I mean, the biggest name on my list is Michael Kendricks. All right, maybe not. That was a joke. Maybe you forgot Michael Kendricks got cut off of our team this year.
He is a free agent. That's funny. Yeah. I was looking through the list to see if he was.
No, so two guys on my list is actually Anthony Barr. He's probably going to get a good amount of money. Minnesota, in my opinion, uses them the wrong way. He's 6'5", 255. He should be rushing the passer, but they're constantly putting him in coverage. They're playing him as a strong side linebacker. He's going to be 27 years old. He does everything well. He plays run defense good. He rushes the passer great, and he's slightly below coverage. So why they keep putting him in coverage, I don't know. Let him rush the passer, but that's just not what they're doing with him in Minnesota. The number one name on my list, but I don't think this guy's going to leave where he's at, is KJ Wright. He's 29 years old. He missed tons of time this year, so he only played 5 games this year, but he was never injured in the 7 seasons before. He played all of those. Really good for Seattle at run defense, great tackler, above average pass coverage. And he was the Seattle Walter Payton Award nominee. So, and he's a good citizen. So a lot of things I like there with KJ Wright. When I looked it up though, he said that he wanted to end his career in Seattle. So chances are he won't get out, but that would be a target if he does.
With our team, Kirksey's guaranteed $7 million this
Unfortunately.
year. Yeah. You're basically keeping him. Schobert, I imagine they're going to try to do a deal. He's unrestricted next year, but I foresee Schobert getting a deal this year. Ray Armstrong is a unrestricted. What do you want to do with Jamie Collins? You can walk away from this contract right now. 2.5 dead money.
Cut him.
Or you're giving him $10 million this year to play.
No.
So you need to replace him.
Yes. You don't have to draft a linebacker in, the first 2 rounds to get a competent. If you look at all the linebackers in the league, the guys who are starting and getting like a ton of snaps, these guys can be found anywhere in the draft. You just have to, know what you're looking for, one, and then hit on one of them. I mean, you got to maybe throw a couple picks at it if you have to. The other thing is, the league is just going away from playing linebackers. Maybe you even go to sets where Schobert's the only linebacker a lot of times. That would be fine with me. Bring in another strong safety to play along with Peppers that can come up and really support the run and be like an extra linebacker.
True.
It's fine with me. They want to do something like that. So there's options there. It doesn't necessarily. It's almost like, this position's almost like when we're talking about tight end. Are you a wide receiver? Are you blocking tight end. What are you? You got versatility. You can do anything. So that's what you can do with your strong safeties and your linebackers. You're interchangeable at this point. And when you look in college at all these guys coming out, like they're all small. Everybody's getting smaller. All the middle linebackers in college are 220 pounds now, and it's just everybody's downsizing. So it's almost where the game's going. You got to be able to defend the run, right? So you don't necessarily have to have a 255-pound linebacker anymore chasing around a tight end. It's just not what's normal. It's just not going to give you the benefit. You need to match up properly with the offensive weapons, and it's tough to do that if you can't keep up with them with your feet.
I agree. Less linebackers, more safeties.
Yep. So, all right, I'll quickly hit the safeties. Now, none of these guys, I don't think they're going to touch any of these safeties. But if you want to talk about the good ones out there, Earl Thomas, obviously, free safety. Where are we at on the contract with
Randall?
Randall, yeah.
He's going to get $9 million this year, and he's unrestricted in 2020. I imagine Randall also gets a deal because this contract will guarantee at the as soon as we get to the first day of the season. So
yeah,
I imagine they'll redo this and try to fold some of this $9 million into some guarantees up front, and try to get Randall on a 2-year deal, but it'll be 4 or 5.
Right. Yes. You mean 2 that the team is on the hook for, but 4 or 5.
Kindred's due in 2020 as well. You've got Peppers for a while, so that one doesn't really matter. And we got 3 dudes on the practice squad.
Yeah.
Safeties, so.
The big names, there's some big names on this list. Earl Thomas, Landon Collins from New York. Adrian Amos is not a big name, but he should be. He's very good for Chicago. He's been good for a number of years. And then Tyrann Mathieu, who played with Houston this year. So are the Browns going to go after any of those guys? No, it's highly unlikely. LaMarcus Joyner is going to be a free agent. Clinton Dix, Trey Boston, Eric Reed, who said he got drug tested 80,000 times until the player association. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
They tested me 10 times a week. And then the player association went in there and go, oh no, he actually got tested the same amount as everybody else. Nice job.
Yeah. Buddy Calhoun's also restricted this year. You can tender him.
Okay. Yeah. And I would do that.
Yeah. Okay. He's sort of a backup safety, I guess, now.
Yep. Flexibility, positional flexibility. So there's the safeties. And then let's just dive into the corners, which, we hit this pretty hard last year in free agency. So it's probably not going to be hit. And, maybe I think more likely to be hit in the draft than anything. EJ Gaines is the one guy who was with us that will no longer be with us. I don't think he's going to be with us. Do you think there's any chance that they bring back EJ Gaines?
I don't know. I mean, they gave him $4 million for 1 year this year.
Yeah. Was his concussions, right? Is that what ended up knocking him out?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that's something you don't want to mess with, so.
They'll have Terrence Mitchell for 2.5, which is a fucking gift deal. TJ Carey, who played well at the end of the season, he's already owed $2 million guaranteed. He's going to make 7.5.
Yeah, I mean I'm just going to keep both of them.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, what would be the point of getting rid of either one of them at this point? They both played good enough, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If you wanted to take a stab at one of the guys, Ronald Darby was probably going to be the biggest guy on that list. Philadelphia, and he struggled. He missed 6 games this year. He struggled at times, but when you look at him, his career, he's 25. From a career aspect, he's an above average coverage guy and above average run defense guy. So typically good. He didn't have the best year this year, though. Next guy on that list played here a couple years ago, was a 4th round pick, Pierre Desir. Do you recall the Pierre Desir days?
I do.
Sashi cut him, I believe. Made a mistake, Sashi. He's 27 years old. He's really good tackler. Solid in coverage. He had his best coverage grade this year, 73.9. Good against the run as well. He's a physical corner. So he's out there. Doubt the Browns really go after him. I think, really zone, running more zone really fits Pierre Desir than going man, playing a lot of press coverage or anything like that. Bradley Roby is a Buckeye, so I'm sure if he becomes free and Denver doesn't want to bring him back. We'll probably listen to everybody want to go after Bradley Roby. He's been okay. He's been average as a player there, but he's only 26 years old, so he could still grow. Darquez Denard from Cincinnati, who was a first-round pick. He's missed time, missed time this year, didn't play too much his first couple of years. Last year, he played 900 snaps, so he has 1 year of actual playing a full year. So that doesn't give me too much hope. He's 27 years old coming off of his rookie contract. That's basically it. Steven Nelson would be one more guy, average player, tackles well, and he was a John Dorsey pick, 3rd round in 2015, 26 years old, and he played with Kansas City this year. So not a lot there. Brashard Breeland, who we brought in, I don't even know where he ended up going, but he's going to be a free agent. He played for Green Bay this year. That's where he went. If John Dorsey wanted to bring him back in, I guess. But I don't foresee that. I think they hit this up in the draft, maybe even late in the draft.
All right, right on. Anybody else? Anything else?
No, that's it. So there's some names to look at in free agency. And the other thing about free agency is that, we don't know. Some of these guys are going to get cut. Teams are going to make decisions here coming up that, hey, we got to save some money somewhere. Let's go ahead and cut this player, and nobody's going to expect it. So there's going to be some other names, and when those names come out, we'll talk about them on our pod. So, but these are the names that are actual unrestricted free agents at this time. We'll see how the rest falls.
Yeah, some cap casualties.
Always happens every year. Somebody that you didn't expect, you're shaking your head. How'd that guy get out there?
Yeah. All right. I guess we're wrapped.
Yeah, I don't have anything else. We'll get Pete on. We'll finish up. We'll see how the Senior Bowl went for him. We will finish up our offensive side of the draft, and then we'll start getting into a lot more draft talk coming up. What else we got coming up? So you got Senior Bowl.
Combine next.
When's Combine?
Beginning of March.
Ooh, I love that.
End of February,
stuff.
I guess.
Something about that, man. That's when you can really start. Once you get those numbers, that's what it takes. You start putting in the athletic data with everything you watched on tape, and then you go, okay, I found all my guys here, Yeah.
All right. Special thanks there, Jack Duffin, the one half of the Paul Brown podcast. Thanks for hanging out in the chat, dude.
What's up, Jack?
You guys can go check out their show. They do pretty much fucking every day. I think they release something. They've got a lot of content there. You guys can hit us up if you want to watch the show recorded live, twitch.tv/STS podcasts. You can join us in the chat and shout at us for making crazy predictions or whatever, crazy ideas. Twitter.
Yes, you can hit us up on Twitter at STS Podcast, and our email is survivingtheseason@gmail.com. Oh, yeah, I forgot. I wanted to mention this at the top of the show because nobody listens to this outro bullshit, but to the people on Reddit, thanks for throwing our name into the podcast threads as somebody to listen to. We appreciate it. We don't do much on Twitter. I mean, we literally have more listeners than we have followers on Twitter. So it's always nice that you guys are repping us on the other platforms and shit. We don't really pay attention to Reddit, but we're the Freddie Kitchens of podcasts.
Yeah. So thanks a lot for sharing the show and telling people to go listen to it. We're going to double up again this year, hopefully.
Yep. Thank you so much. Awesome. I mean, again, the Browns community, man, it's awesome. I can't say enough about it. I bring it up all the time, but it's just so much fun. People are always ready to talk Browns. I mean, when we have a playoff championship team, I just can't imagine how much fun this thing's going to be, man. Can't wait. Looking forward to it.
#Road to Redemption. Greg, tell them what we say.
Keep on surviving.